Very much, Andriy, and Mikhail Tremopoulos, please.
Ευχαριστώ, κυρία Πρόεδρε. Ευχαριστώ και τον κύριο Μποστινά.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and I'd like to thank Mr. Bostinaru for all the work that he has done on the Black Sea. I think he's covered a number of very important issues, and there are one or two other elements that I myself would like to add, and I have certain more personal observations. Firstly, if we take a look at the pollution in the Black Sea, pollution of rivers and any pollution coming from vessels, there is the Dnipro River, a Ukrainian river, and we know that it is highly polluted, but there are nuclear power stations located both in Romania and Bulgaria which use water from various of these rivers for cooling purposes. So this is a river, we know, that travels through very many East and Central European countries, and it flows into the Black Sea, and there's not only pollution from farming activities, but also from industry and from nuclear power stations, and all of this eventually flows into the Black Sea, and then ends up in the Aegean Sea via the Bosphorus. The Aegean Sea has 7 times the level of radioactive material than it receives through by the Ionic Sea from Greece and Italy, which means, of course, that the Black Sea is quite polluted. And a lot of this pollution, a lot of this contamination comes from the area we're talking about. But it doesn't only stay there, it also has a knock-on effect on other regions and their industries. And we know that pollution does not recognize borders, so we need some kind of cross-border cooperation to ensure joint management of this environmental aspect. And then, of course, there are the petrol tankers. And very often they clean out the tanks and throw the bilge water into the sea. And of course this is highly polluting. It's very dangerous as well. And there is the additional risk that there could be some quite large-scale environmental incidents. I don't feel that the Black Sea is properly controlled or managed, and we know, of course, that it is an enclosed sea with no strong currents, and this is why it has this high level of pollution. And we're not only talking about European Union legislation that can be applied here. If you take a look at 2 of the other coastal states, Ukraine and Russia, they don't have this kind of environmental legislation. But even member states of the European Union have problems when it comes to respecting this legislation. So I think we are going to have to think in terms of some kind of prevention policy in order to deal with the pollution. It's not just a case of trying to put things right once they've happened. We have to try and prevent these incidents, and maybe we ought to try and focus on building up a network of oil pipelines. And I'd like to say something now about the people-to-people projects which are financed through the Small Project Fund. These kind of projects are very important in cross-border regions and some of the more outermost regions. And I don't think these small projects should be held up by focusing funding on the larger scale projects. Then I think we are going to have to improve infrastructure and connections when it comes to cross-border rail networks. We have to improve the connections, communications between large cities and ports, Constantinople with Bucharest, and amongst some of the other ports and cities in this region. And I think one of the examples of this kind of cooperation would also have to include maritime transport with neighbouring countries such as Russia, Georgia or Ukraine. And I think we are going to have a clearer framework so that we can deal with ports and air transport connections as well, and always on the basis of sustainable development. Thank you.